long before the first international flight, even before the concept of a country as we know it. A young king looked at an imperfect map and saw possibilities where others saw borders. Alexander did not just want to conquer lands. He wanted to understand the world as a whole. In his mind, each culture was a piece, each territory a board. While today we talk about mergers, acquisitions, and emerging markets, he was already practicing all of that with sword, diplomacy, and vision. Imagine a CEO capable of unifying different markets under a single identity, respecting each culture and still expanding his reach. Now, imagine this in the 4th century BC. Alexander was the first truly global strategist. He did not see the world in pieces. He saw connections. And the most impressive thing, he did this without satellites, without the internet, without clear borders. Only with mind, instinct, and purpose. Stay until the end and understand how to think like him. Because those who learn to see the world from above never return to the ground. Imagine leading a global expansion without Google, without reports, without reliable maps. That was Alexander's world, a territory full of gaps, distorted drawings, myths mixed with facts, and yet he clearly saw what lay ahead. How? Alexander didn't wait for the world to come to him. He went to the world. He surrounded himself with navigators, philosophers, cartographers, merchants. He gathered travelers' reports as one builds a database. He cross-checked stories with his own observations. Verified, analyzed, connected. He was a mind that operated above average, literally. He didn't see just cities or enemies. He saw flows of ideas, of wealth, of customs. He understood that a civilization could be conquered by a sword, but only maintained through integration. Today, global leaders face the same dilemma, making decisions based on fragmented information, choosing whether to act or wait for more data, understanding cultures that don't speak their language, and still forging alliances. Alexander did this every day. He didn't see borders, he saw interdependence. And perhaps, unknowingly, he invented a new kind of intelligence, the intelligence to see from above. Global expansion is the golden dream of many leaders. New markets, more profits, international presence. But what was a promise often turns into a nightmare. Think of companies that try to sell fast food in countries with religious fasting, or ride apps that ignored local laws and were banned, and advertising campaigns that seemed brilliant until they offended an entire culture. What do these failures have in common? They all stem from the same mistake, the illusion of universality, the belief that what works here will work anywhere. This is the true corporate Achilles heel. Arrogance disguised as confidence, the rush to grow without understanding the terrain. Alexander didn't make that mistake. Instead of imposing, he absorbed. Instead of replicating, he adapted. His troops learned local languages. His generals married women from the region. He didn't sell domination, he sold belonging. While many modern leaders impose culture from the top down, Alexander did the opposite. He bridged the top with the base, and that allowed him to remain where others would be expelled. In the game of expansion, he understood what so many still ignore. The world is not your client. The world is your partner. Global expansion is not just strategy. It is coexistence. It is landing in new territory and being accepted, not just tolerated. Here the silent stumbles begin. A greeting misunderstood. A symbol harmless at home, but offensive on another continent. A slogan that loses meaning or gains a new, embarrassing one when translated. And the most dangerous part? The company doesn't always realize it made a mistake, because the audience's silence is the start of rejection. Alexander faced the same dilemma. He was not welcome everywhere. He was seen as an invader, foreigner, threat. But he understood something vital. Physical presence does not guarantee cultural acceptance. And so, he cultivated understanding. Instead of imposing his religion, he allowed local cults. Instead of destroying symbols, he preserved them as part of the new empire. He ordered manuscripts to be translated, respected traditions, studied customs. When he founded a city, it was not just a military outpost. It was a cultural center, a hybrid, a meeting point. In the corporate world, companies that fail at this point go to war with their own base. They lose space, they lose relevance, and in the end, they are forced to retreat. Those who, like Alexander, listen before acting, build something rarer than dominance, affinity. And that's when the game changes. A CEO sits in front of declining numbers. They entered 3 new countries and failed in all 3. The product is good, the brand is strong, but something is broken, and it's not the market. It's the vision. So he stops, remembers an ancient story of a leader who did not win alone. A man who governed vast territories with realities he could never understand alone. Alexander. And there, at that moment, the strategy changes. Instead of imposing, he listens. Instead of sending executives, he recruits local leaders. People who understand cultural codes, real needs, invisible taboos. He forms a global council, a diverse team, autonomous, but aligned. Each voice has decision-making power, as long as it speaks based on the ground it walks on. Alexander did exactly that. Instead of centralizing everything in himself, he delegated precisely. But he never gave up the vision. He was the link, not the gear. His generals were not just soldiers. They were administrators. They were diplomats. They had freedom, but with a common goal, the integration of the empire. The CEO then understands what Alexander grasped centuries before. Leading from above is not controlling everything. It's connecting everything. And from that decision, expansion stops being invasion. It becomes collaboration. The first signs were subtle. A locally created ad campaign went viral and didn't seem imported. The product was adjusted to local tastes and sold out in weeks. People were not just buying, they were recommending. The brand stopped being foreign. It became part of the conversation, of the culture, of everyday life. That's when the CEO understood. They had not conquered a market. They had gained allies. Alexander knew the value of this. He did not found cities to leave them under his control. He left in them something greater, a seed of belonging. Greek architecture mixed with local traits, languages coexisting, religions cohabiting. It was a fusion, not of power, but of identity. The result? The local culture felt respected, and therefore reciprocated with loyalty. Companies that think this way reap more than sales. They reap ideas. They reap innovation. Because when you don't try to change a people, you give room for them to transform you as well. Alexander did not build an empire of soldiers. He built an empire of allies. And there, in that climax, the modern CEO realizes the best expansion is not the one that reaches the farthest. It's the one that roots the deepest. Alexander did not just conquer territories. He left marks that crossed centuries, a legacy engraved on 3 continents. Founded cities, created trade routes, connected cultures. His empire was not only political, it was cultural, social, a web of influence that resisted time. Modern CEOs seek the same legacy, not just sales or geographic expansion, but the creation of brands that transcend borders, that are part of millions of lives, in their values, in their stories. Just as Alexander founded cities that were bridges between worlds, today companies need to build bridges between cultures, between markets, between people. This legacy translates into products that carry meaning, that don't sell just utility, but identity, that speak the consumer's language, literally and emotionally. And that's where the final image gains strength, a symbolic fusion. Alexander and the CEO side by side. 2 leaders separated by millennia, united by vision. Because legacy is not just what we leave behind. It's what we influence ahead. It's the view of the world from above. That turns territory into connection, and conquests into stories. The world has changed, but the essence of global leadership remains. Thinking big is not just about dominating territories. It's about understanding that the future begins with respect for the local. Alexander showed that looking from above is not distance, but perspective. It's seeing the invisible connections between people, cultures, and markets. Today, every global decision depends on that expanded view. Because sustainable success is not born from imposition, but from intelligent integration. So ask yourself, are you really looking at the world from above? Or do you still see only isolated pieces? The invitation is to expand your vision, to lead with awareness and empathy, to build bridges, not walls. Because true conquest is not about how many places you reach, but how many hearts you touch. The global mind began with a young king centuries ago. Now, it's in your hands to continue that story.